I like talking about tutorials, and I like talking about mistakes. So guess what we're doing today? I think great tutorials are underappreciated. Sure, you can stick a bunch of text boxes over your gameplay and it sort of, probably does the minimum job, but that's not going to create a great tutorial experience. Tutorials are where games get to make a first impression, and screwing one up puts a game at a disadvantage immediately. It's easy enough to identify the big mistakes, but a mistake doesn't have to be big to be impactful. Subtle problems are harder to spot, harder to talk about, but no less devastating to a tutorial's effectiveness. Let's talk about 3 recent games with some tutorials that are just a little bit off. Except Hypnotorious. That one's way off, but we'll get there. Know what has a good tutorial? Today's sponsor, Surfshark. It makes it super easy to secure your internet traffic. Surfshark is a VPN, and with one click you can use it to keep your browsing and login data away from prying eyes. Hackers on public Wi-Fi, the King of England. You can keep it private from anyone who doesn't need to see your stuff. It's not just for data privacy though. Did you know that browsing from certain countries can get you better deals on products? For example, Canva is cheaper in Turkey, so just click, and for all anyone knows, you're in Turkey now. Save a ton of money on a yearly subscription. Easy as that. The deals are more common than you think. Globe hop from your home, and save on a lot of stuff. And of course, Surfshark can get you access to region-locked content on streaming services. I hear Australia is nice this time of year. Oh, look at that. There's plenty more you can do, but you'll have to sign up first. Secure your privacy with Surfshark. Enter the coupon code DOC at checkout for 4 extra months at surfshark.deal/doc. Thanks, Surfshark. Lesson 1. The tutorial is leaking. Tutorials are never easy. Ideally, a tutorial would feel like an in-universe extension of gameplay, and not as much like a boxed-off mode that you have to get through before getting to the real game. But making a tutorial so that it's seamless is a really tough thing to do, and some genres make it even tougher. When you compare the open-air Zelda Duology, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, you can see what it looks like when that tension isn't resolved quite right. Both Zeldas have a lot of tutorial overlap. Breath of the Wild starts you off on the Great Plateau. You're stuck there until you receive your paraglider, and to do that, you have to complete 4 shrines located on the plateau. Each shrine unlocks a Sheikah Slate ability and a Spirit Orb. The journey to each of the shrines is a microcosm of the main game's structure, and forces players to absorb and apply most, if not all of the most important ideas they'll need to complete the game, while still mixing in some of the less critical, but still helpful lessons. Players will get hands-on experience with basic combat, weapon durability, climbing, archery, gathering materials, using the environment, and the chemistry system. They'll learn basic navigation with the towers, the map, fast travel teleporting, and using waypoints. They'll learn how shrines work, and how to use their special Sheikah abilities to solve puzzles and get around obstacles. Players will learn how to combine these ideas, and that there can be more than one solution to a challenge too. To deal with the extreme temperatures, they could either wear a warm doublet to keep out of the cold, cook and eat meals with peppers to provide a buff, brute force their way with healing items, or even just hold up a torch to keep warm. By the end of the plateau section, players will prove they have the tools they need to complete the game. The tutorial's over. You're given a general hint to head for Kakariko first to get some more exposition, but you can sail away towards whatever adventure you choose. Tears of the Kingdom is, well, almost the same. The Great Sky Island takes a lot of cues from its predecessor. Maybe a little more story and maybe a little more linear hands-on direction from the game itself. You're stuck on the island until you can visit 3 shrines. Each unlocks a core ability, not unlike the Sheikah Slate ones. Then you get 1 more ability and 1 more shrine to close it out. The island is much more linear than the plateau, and almost everyone visits the shrines in a set order, venturing around in a counterclockwise direction. As you go, you're learning or maybe relearning all of the fundamentals you learned in Breath of the Wild, while getting a lot more hands-on time with the new game's new additions, Ultra Hand and Fuse. Glue together a Nightmare Rube Goldberg machine, wield the Blade of Destiny, and get your shrines done. These 2 abilities alone are much more complex and versatile than anything in Breath of the Wild, So the more hands-on linear design of the Sky Island is there partly to keep you on stronger rails, just to make sure you get the full implications of your expansive toolkit. There's still more to learn though. There's caves, lighting up dark areas, using some of the special Zonai devices, getting across gaps in railways with janky vehicles, water landings, phasing through ceiling-related matter with Ascend, and of course, all the time magic. It's a lot, but this game is a lot. Once you're set with all that, you can drop down to the land and re-explore the new Hyrule to your heart's content. Except, there's still more to learn. Tears of the Kingdom is more conflicted than Breath of the Wild between keeping players on a linear path and giving them total freedom. Even though the tutorial's over, the tutorial isn't over. Oh, you could get by, I suppose, but if you try to venture off on your own right now, and you totally could, you might have a bad time. You just don't have quite a few key features yet. You don't even have your paraglider. The game strongly points you towards Lookout Landing, the central hub town. Go there, get your paraglider, unlock the towers, and there, get the main questline going. Finally, now you can re-explore the new Hyrule to your heart's content. Except there's still more to learn. What made you think the tutorial was over? Was it when you left the tutorial zone space? Or when you left the second tutorial zone space? Nah, we're not done yet. The whole world's a secret tutorial zone. Kinda. You haven't seen anything yet about the geoglyph quests, where most of the actual story is told, or the order to best view the geoglyphs in, so as to not get the story spoiled. Though that's not just the tutorial's fault. The game's story has one big question. What happened to Zelda? You could accidentally find out here, immediately. You don't know about the Depths questline either, which is almost a whole game by itself, and holds extremely useful features like the camera and the shrine sensor. If you go off on your own, you could easily skip over either of those for like 20 hours by accident. A sad, photo-less, backstory-less husk of an experience. There are even still explicit tutorials scattered throughout the world in combat training shrines. There are 7, all to test you on specific combat methods. Beat the robot by only using the mechanic of the day and you win. There's extra tutorial stuff when you enter one compared to a normal shrine, so it's still clearly part of the tutorial portion of the game. Maybe you could have figured out these mechanics on your own, but they're pretty specific and can be pretty useful, and seeking them out can take you pretty far off of the main path, if you can find them at all. A couple are right around Lookout Landing, that's fine. A couple are just a little off course around there. One's over by Hebra, but you'll probably head over there first after you're done in the hub, so that's not too bad. But then there's one in the sky. Maybe you'll hit it up when you unlock the nearby tower, but that's not a guarantee at all. The furthest one teaches you about Sneak Strike, and it's way over in Akala, where the game won't send you for dozens of hours. Is Sneak Strike not worth learning about? There was a little pop-up for these mechanics, but there wasn't any proof you absorbed the info. That's what the combat training shrines are for. They're clearly thought of as important. The style and setup suggest that this is still info the dev wants you to learn, but the placement so far afield blurs the line between what should be required to learn and what shouldn't, and the result is a lot of missable mechanics. For whatever reason, Tears of the Kingdom drags out giving you all the tools you need beyond what's reasonable, and beyond its own teaching boundaries. Extremely useful tools can be easily missed for a long time, even a majority of a playthrough, if you don't follow the game's suggested path. For a wide open world game, that's a weird stance to take. Tears of the Kingdom might be unhooking the leash just a bit too early. Lesson 2. Timing is everything. A tutorial presented at the wrong time can't do the job it's meant to do. The closer a tutorial is to players putting it into practice, the better. That gets to be even more important as the lessons become more complicated, to make sure the lessons can actually stick. Unicorn Overlord is great, the world's best love letter to Ogre Battle, but man, it's dense if you want it to be. If you've never played Ogre Battle before, think of it as a tactics game with a couple of layers. Instead of individual units you control move by move like Final Fantasy Tactics and others, you set up a bunch of small squads of up to 5 characters that will fight alongside each other. You tell a squad to deploy to a battle map and tell them where to march to. Eventually they'll bump into an enemy squad, and those two will duke it out in an automatic fight, going back and forth until everyone's out of moves and the loser of the fight gets knocked around the map, away from what they are guarding, or worse yet, disbanded entirely. Unicorn Overlord has dozens of playable classes and each has little quirks in combat versus many, but not all of the others. Think of it as halfway between the Fire Emblem weapon triangle and the type charts in Pokemon. Units are supposed to be built so different classes can cover each other's weaknesses. Like a very defensive Legionnaire might help block incoming fire so it doesn't hit your squishy Warlock. Basic stuff. But the sheer volume of options let the people who want to tinker around make some amazing team comps. Oh, and that's not even counting the full-on Final Fantasy XII style gambit system you can adjust for each character individually. Combat might be automatic, but you do still have complete control over how your characters are going to fight if you want to dive into it. It's a tough job to teach a system this dense to a player. The game does a solid job for the most part, except for some of the finer tactical details. Scattered throughout the overworld are little class showcase fights. Some NPC will talk to you about how they're a Griffin Rider and how they beat up on cavalry, but don't use them against archers, or else. Everyone gives a short blurb about how to use their hot new class. They'll challenge you to a little fight, and if you beat them completely, you win some money. That sounds great, except these fights might as well be randomly placed in the world. It's not like there's a trillion Griffin Riders just around the corner and this is the prep for that. Sometimes you can't even use the info you've learned. If a class says they're weak to mages, you might not even have a mage in your army yet. Now, that might sound like nitpicking, but these battlefield details are one of the major things setting this game apart. When it's all clicking like it's designed to, Unicorn Overlord can make you feel like a tactical genius. But it's not always clicking. And there's one more quirk that can short-circuit all of the game's tutorials. It'd be one thing if the challenge was just presented too early, but it's doubly bad when you can get through the test for the tutorial without using the lesson. Overleveling is the backup plan. If a unit is just a little bit higher level, you can win with almost any dumb class comp you cooked up. When it's going wrong, it feels more like I'm winning fights by bashing units with a rock. It overwhelms any finely tuned strategic balance and lets you skate by anyway. No matter how you win, that's that for the lesson. You can quickly forget about what was said and move on with the game. It won't be much of a problem until a lot later. The difficulty ramps up and it becomes more and more beneficial to employ actual class tactics on enemy squads. You can still blunt force your way through, but enemies become more able to wipe out poorly designed units of yours. Sure would be nice to have a tactical refresher right about now, but the time has passed. The catch-up encyclopedia that the game offers is better than nothing, but there's barely any information in there. It's like 2 sentences long per class, not enough to be thorough. It's not that there's no information you can use, it's just that you're much better off if you look at a guide online. The class fights in Unicorn Overlord just aren't presented at the right time to be useful and sticky. The lessons are subtle and might not be immediately applicable in the way the game wants them to be. Luckily, this isn't a deal breaker for progressing on the normal and hard difficulties, but good luck on anything tougher without some external research. Lesson 3. Don't hold back. Tutorials aren't really the right place for unreliable narrators. Once in a while, a game comes up with a great story reason to not be upfront with players in a tutorial, but not very often. More likely, a lie of omission will cut against the tutorial's main goals. That's extra important in games of social deception. Hypnotorious is a game in Jackbox Party Pack 10. You and your friends are given unique personas to play, and need to keep that identity a secret. You each answer questions in the style of that persona, and then you have to deduce the secret categories that connect some of you all together. So you do that, and start guessing what bucket you all belong in, while the game's tutorial describes all of this step by step. Until you're about 2/3 of the way through the game. It turns out, one of you doesn't belong in a bucket with anyone. There's an odd man out among you, the outlier, and there always has been. If you're the outlier, you're all alone. Though you still don't know it yet. It's not like in a game of Mafia or Werewolf where you know your own role or you know who else is in your group. Outliers aren't told they're outliers. They're just as blind as everyone else. Now the game tells everyone to figure out who doesn't belong. They've probably written some responses that don't seem to quite fit with anyone else. You go through another round of questions, then at the end, you all have to try to vote on who the outlier is. If you're right, you win. Probably. it's a point system. Wait a minute, that's not quite accurate. It's not just that you're right about the outlier. If you all agree enough on who the outlier is, and you're right, all you correctly voting people win, including the outlier if they vote for themselves. If you vote correctly but can't convince enough other people to vote with you, or if you can't get a majority on any one person, you all lose and the outlier gets a bunch of points and maybe wins. Which might come as a big surprise to the outlier, who still doesn't know any more than anyone else until they're revealed at the end. The game's kinda wonkily designed. There's time built in for discussion, so everyone can try to coordinate and figure out who the outlier is, but there's even more tension around figuring out how much to actually say. You're not supposed to reveal your identity straight away, just hint at it. How hinty can you be before you might as well just blurt out your role? The tutorial doesn't provide much guidance on how to answer. What could the 3 categories be? Who knows? They could be patterns, like spotted, striped, and masked. Do those all fit together? It could be something like fictional characters, actors, and music acts. Maybe soft, sharp, and shaken. Maybe it's extra vague, like different colors or starting letters. Good luck intuiting a theme, especially if someone's playing a role you aren't familiar with, like a specific actor or character. The worst part of it all might be the revelation of the existence of an outlier coming mid-game. No one playing for the first time even knows how to approach play, and can't thanks to the info the game is keeping from you. Whoever gets assigned the outlier role has no idea of the strategy they need to be playing until the game's almost over. They need to somehow deduce that they don't belong through careful interpretation of answers, while at the same time tailoring their answers to match others in secret categories that you don't know what they are, and then try to make sure that no one else figures out what you figured out, even though everyone's working off of basically the same information. If you're playing for the first time, there's almost nothing to go off of. Good luck trying to make a meaningful game choice when no one knows what moves are allowed, what other players should be trying to do, or even what final goal people are working towards. Even after several run-throughs, it's still not super clear how you should be playing. Whenever I've played it with people, someone always tries to tell new players in the group that there's an outlier before the tutorial does, and that crystallizes the problem by itself. If your players feel compelled to rewrite the tutorial, that's probably a sign that it isn't doing its job quite right. Look, this game has all kinds of issues besides this. There's another video that goes extremely in depth about how the scoring system can make it basically impossible for the outlier to lose in many cases. Maybe the tutorial can't save a game that's this fundamentally flawed, but it's not helping. Hypnotorious winds up being a confusing, awkward game that makes it practically impossible to play a meaningful strategy on the first run through, and makes for a rocky first impression. You can make your own rocky first impression by heading to the comments. We're going to talk about your best examples of slightly off tutorials in games, or, as long as it's funny enough, some very off tutorial comments would be fun too. Over on Patreon, we got our new monthly newsletter, podcast, and early release videos for you to grab, so sign up over there to help support us and get some extras. Tutorials are hard. Figuring out how to communicate the right info in the right way at the right time is extremely game dependent, but it's not something you can ignore. Even solid tutorials can have missteps, so be on the lookout for tutorials' subtle problems.